Title, I was the last to know. Everyone else knew the truth. You know what? It actually feels kind of good getting this off my chest in a space like this. Maybe someone out there has been through something similar, or maybe it'll just serve as a cautionary tale. Either way, here goes. My ex-wife, Karen, yeah, might as well use her real name, screw it. She was in her early 40s at the time. We'd been married close to 15 years, 2 kids, mortgage, the usual suburban life checklist. Things weren't perfect, but you tell yourself that's marriage, right? You compromise, you forgive, you make things work. At least that's what I thought. She flew out one weekend to visit her parents. Nothing out of the ordinary. I stayed back with the kids, did the usual dad stuff, pizza night, movie marathons, playground visits. When I picked her up from the airport, there was this young guy with her. Clean cut, fresh out of college looking, she introduced him as Daniel, said they ended up seated next to each other on the flight, started chatting, and it turns out their parents were part of the same social circle back home. Small world kinda thing. Now I'm a decent guy, or at least I try to be. He was new in the city, starting an internship in the downtown firm, didn't know anyone here. Karen suggested we invite him over sometimes so he wouldn't feel so alone in the big bad city. I didn't see any harm in that. What kind of asshole says no to that? So we did. He came over for dinners. I threw a few beers his way on weekends. We took him along to the beach with the kids. The guy was a bit of a loner, didn't talk much, but again, didn't strike me as anything odd. Looking back, the signs were probably there, all flashing in neon, and I either missed them or chose not to see. She'd take him shopping sometimes, said I never liked those trips anyway. True, or they'd go to movies I wasn't into. A couple of times she mentioned a house party at one of her friends' places, girls' night supposedly, and Daniel was just tagging along because it was a mixed crowd. I stayed home with the kids, genuinely grateful I didn't have to deal with people I had no interest in. For 6 months this went on, then Daniel's internship wrapped up and he went back home. I even dropped him at the airport. Shook his hand, told him good luck, sent him on his way. I figured that was the end of it. Turns out it was. What I didn't know was they'd kept in touch. Texting, calling, God knows what else. Apparently young Daniel caught feelings, as kids do when they play grown-up games. A few years rolled by, life happened. Our marriage fell apart, though not because of that, at least not as far as I knew. Living with a narcissist is death by 1,000 cuts. Everything was always about he. Her happiness, her needs, her wants. I was a workhorse, a walking paycheck, a convenience. But you convince yourself it's love because you invested too many years into the idea of us. We divorced. It was ugly, financially devastating. Emotionally worse. The kids stayed with me most of the time, their choice, not a court order. That should have told me something right there. Karen and I kept in touch only because of the kids. I had no clue about Daniel or any of it. Not then. And then came the bombshell. A so-called friend of hers, mutual acquaintance really, pulled me aside one evening. Said, you know about Karen and the kid, right? I had no idea what she was talking about. And then she spilled it all. The affair, the meetings, how Karen used to brag to her girlfriends about her 20 years younger boy toy. I was stunned, couldn't breathe for a second. But wait, it gets worse. A couple of weeks later, an anonymous email lands in my inbox. No subject, no text, just photos of Karen naked. Some selfies, some hardcore shots. Some in our bedroom, some in our living room, a few from what must have been Daniel's apartment. It wasn't hard to piece together. Some were from angles that made it obvious he was behind the camera. I didn't reply, didn't mention it to her, I just sat there, staring at the screen like an idiot. I wasn't even mad at that point. I was numb. The anger came later, not at her, but at myself. How the hell did I not see it? How did I believe every flimsy excuse, every lie? I worked my ass off day and night, missing birthdays, anniversaries, just to give my stay-at-home wife and kids a good life, and this was my reward. Then came the other stories. Friends and acquaintances started confessing. Oh yeah, we always knew she had a thing for younger guys. You didn't know. Really, some claimed to have seen them together. Others had heard the rumors but chose to stay out of it. Apparently cheating was her hobby, and Daniel was just one of many. After the divorce, Daniel tried to get back into her life, thinking now that I was out of the picture, his time had come. She must have turned him down because shortly after that, he had sent those photos. Maybe it was revenge, maybe desperation, who knows? I honestly didn't care anymore. The final punch to the gut. Someone let it slip she'd been diagnosed with borderline personality disorder. Would have been nice to know a decade earlier. I've stayed single since. Not because I hate women, I don't. But trust, that's a currency I ran out of a long time ago. The kids are grown now. Good people despite everything. They chose to keep their distance from their mother. Can't say I blame them. Every now and then I still hear about Karen's latest escapades. Threesomes, affairs, bicurious flings, whatever. Friends seem to think it's their duty to keep me updated. What they don't get is how little I care. It's like hearing about a movie you didn't like the first time around and have no interest in watching the sequel. If there's a silver lining, it's that the whole mess made me harder, sharper, less trusting maybe, but also less willing to put up with bullshit. And for the first time in my life, I actually know who my friends are. So yeah, that's my story, not proud of it. Didn't expect to share it here, but I did. And if there's anyone out there wading through their own storm, just know you come out the other side a little scarred maybe, but stronger too.